Hello and welcome to another episode of Frank Financials. In this episode we're talking about debt and why we want none of it. So why do we want no debt?
Because
For so many reasons.
first off, there's multiple different kinds of debt, right? And in general, some debt you really never want. Credit card
debt, yeah.
Being like number one. If to be on good financial footing, anything you would buy with a credit card, you should have the cash to pay for upfront. And you should never hold a balance on the credit card unless it's a true emergency and you plan to pay it out of your emergency fund or something like that. So obviously we don't want credit card debt, and neither one of us has ever had credit card debt.
That's true.
Because of that, we've known that fact. The next biggest debt that most people have is student loan debt. We were lucky; neither one of us had that either. But we also, if we had to take out loans, we both chose majors such that there was a pretty good return on investment on the major that we took.
Yeah, if you have ever listened to Dave Ramsey, he goes off on a rant about taking out student loans, especially to go to an out-of-state school, which are more expensive, to get some, I think he used the term artsy-fartsy degree, or whatever you want to describe it as, a degree that typically does not have a very high earnings potential after you graduate college after 4 years, or even longer than that, depending on the degree you choose.
So his opinion, and I kind of share this, is if to take out a loan, so remember you have to pay this back, and there's going to be interest. So you're going to be paying more than this.
And
back.
It goes with you until you die.
Yeah, there's no bankruptcy with student loans or anything like that. If you're going to take out a loan, you need to have a good return on investment. So if you're going to take out a loan for a degree, you better be picking a degree where you are pretty much guaranteed a good salary after graduation, which would be engineering, IT, things like that. Now, he's not saying everyone should get an engineering degree.
For sure. Yeah, that's not right for everybody.
What he's saying is if you want to get a degree that does not have a guaranteed high earnings potential after graduation, you should work beforehand and save up the money in order to get that degree. And that way you are not putting yourself into a lifetime of debt. And I think that's actually a pretty good advice. It's hard to tell a college student, but pretty good advice.
It is, yeah, it is tough.
So we don't have any college loan debt, which we're lucky there. Though also picked degrees where we would have been able to pay them off quickly.
Yep.
So the major car loans.
That I have had. It was a 0% interest loan, but I still took out a loan to buy a brand new car back in 2010, which even with 0% interest, I still regret to this day, because it was a car that I just absolutely 100% did not need.
Yeah.
But I liked the idea of driving it. And when you get that emotion in your head, like you like the idea, you like to be seen in this particular car, you tend to be willing to spend a little bit more money than
you don't have.
Probably what you should be spending.
Yeah. So we bought our truck with cash. And there's a reason for that, because what he just said. We could have gone truck shopping and been like, we're going to take out a loan, and gotten all the bells and whistles.
Oh, yeah, 2016 Dodge Ram.
Yeah. But we didn't want that debt hanging over our heads. So we saved up the money, and once we had enough money saved that we thought we could find a truck with what we wanted, we started looking. And we only had a certain amount of money to spend. And I think that worked really well for us. It kept us debt-free.
We kept looking, we found the right one, and we made a cash offer. And I mean, especially if you can pay cash, you are more likely to get a better deal at the dealership than if you have to lease it or get a loan.
Often
financing and all that messy stuff. So I mean, if you go in there with cash in hand, you typically will find the best price.
Yes. But just in general, I don't think we will ever take out a car loan again, even at 0%.
I don't even know if we'll buy a house again, but
that's the next one. But
that's
car
another,
loan, I don't think, so we don't recommend credit card debt. We don't plan on ever having it.
Well, certainly not
We
credit
don't
card
recommend
debt.
student loan debt unless you have a guaranteed return on it. And we don't recommend car debt. So the last big one that most people consider good debt, but that we want nothing to do with, is a mortgage. First off, we live in an Airstream, but We could have financed that. We could have gotten a nicer Airstream. We could have gotten a 2017 Airstream.
Yeah.
Similar to a car. Or
Pay double the price.
Yeah.
But
Again,
we could have done it.
We didn't want that hanging over our heads. So again, we saved up cash to buy our home, which is our Airstream. And honestly, with the amount we've been saving for our early retirement goals, we could have paid off one of our 2 houses. So we each had taken out a mortgage on a house.
Yes, we both had a house going into this relationship.
Yes. So we've both done the whole mortgage, good debt thing.
And I lost so much money on this house.
But Steve
Of course,
lost.
I bought at the absolute wrong time. Yeah. Not everybody buys at the wrong time, but
so a mortgage is not, or a house is not a guaranteed return on investment. Some places it might be, but it depends on when you buy. It depends on a lot of factors, and you put a lot of money into a house. And so if a house is something you want for security, because you plan on staying there for the long term,
the longer you stay,
then a mortgage is probably
chances.
an okay thing, especially if you plan on trying to pay it down early. Reduce that amount of interest that you're paying. I think that's the number one reason why we don't want debt, is because any debt you get means you're paying more money because there's interest.
Absolutely. Interest.
So,
and of course, there are tax benefits to that as well.
Yes, but still, just in
but
general.
you still pay a lot of interest.
And it means you owe someone. It means you have a monthly bill that you owe someone for however long your debt lasts. So,
in my humble opinion, there are 2 reasons why you take out debt. One, you are already in fairly good financial standing. You don't need a credit score of 800 necessarily, but you know how to manage money. You're not living paycheck to paycheck, and you have the means to pay off this debt relatively quickly. Even if you don't make extra payments, there's still that buffer when you consider your income to your debt ratio. And number 2, there's a good return on that investment, and that's what we've been talking about here so far. A lot of people make good money in real estate by buying investment properties. They fix them up, they flip them, or they rent them. You can make really good money in real estate, but you have to want to make money. You have to try. You have to put in the effort. Yeah. It's not going to be automatic.
Not necessarily.
And I think that's the point that we're trying to make. Yes, you could buy a house in a great area and it appreciates 100% over 10 or 15 or 20 years, and that happens. Good for you if it did happen that way. Certainly didn't happen that way for me or most people I know. If you break even after adding up all the costs of home ownership with maintenance and taxes
all the
and
interest
fees
you paid
and
on your mortgage,
realtor fees and all that added in, if you could break even, I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Like I said, I certainly didn't, but it's definitely possible to make money. As long as you do it right and that's your goal.
Yeah.
That's your goal.
So that is not our goal, which is why we don't want any debt. I don't even think, like I said, the amount we've saved up now with living the way we've been living, we could have paid off the house we were living in no problem and been working towards paying off the second house. So I don't think we will probably even go for a mortgage if we ever decide to settle down again. We will probably...
Unless something changes, I don't see that happening either.
Yeah, I think we will pay in cash.
Or just rent.
Or just rent, because we don't...
That way, if the hot water heater breaks, it's somebody else's problem. It's not ours. We don't like maintenance either.
That's a whole nother discussion. We're not going to talk renting versus owning. But just for us, debt, we don't plan on having any if we can help it ever again. But like I said, some people think there is good debt. We just don't.
Yeah, especially student loans.
Yeah, that's not good debt. But
it can be.
Like we already explained.
Yeah, it can be. I personally don't believe there's any good debt, but there are debts that are probably a little bit more, they have the potential to be more beneficial than others, for sure. Yep.
I think we've rambled long enough.
I think we have to. As our dog walks around making noise, which you've probably heard. So that's it for this week's episode of Frank Financials. If you liked what Penny, I think you're in the way.
If you like what we've been rambling about.
If you like what we've been rambling about, and especially if you want to see more of our dog, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment if you have anything else to say about debt, what debts you
find acceptable.
Yeah, I've taken out and actually make some money on in the long run. Feel free to comment, and we'd love to hear your story. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.